All right. So today on the podcast, What Happened to Noah Presgrove, we have one of our favorite people that we've worked with before, people in the true crime world know her as Sheryl McCollum. We wanted to bring her in to find out her thoughts. She knows a little bit the case, but she's been following it, and we've been talking to her offline about the case, but we always go back to Mac to try to get her viewpoint on things. And, you know, I'm sure she's going to have a lot to say about the crime scene and a lot of other things. And she's spoken to one of the family members. So, Mac, thank you for being on. So excited to have you on and see your face. We miss you. We've been out in the field with you.
We love Mac. She's awesome. She's the best.
I love working in the field with y'all. Come on.
Yeah.
And
it's fantastic.
So with such easy cases.
I know. These complicated cases. Exactly. We always but it all stems. It's interesting though, because a lot like Molly and Colt, which you've helped us on, and you came out and did some physical excavations and stuff like that. We've always said, go back to the beginning, and go back to the crime scene, go back to and yep. I think that's, you always harp on that because, you're a crime scene investigator. That's your bread and butter. That's what you do. And so just a little bit about what you know about this case as far as, because we've been harping on it too, is the crime scene. Tell us your thoughts about that.
When you have a case that everything that could have been done, should have been done, ain't done, you're opening yourself up to conspiracy, to confusion, and anger. And that's exactly what you have here. You have got a family that doesn't understand how their loved one is on the shoulder of a highway, naked and dead of at least 10 wounds that could have been fatal. Why was there not an accident reconstruction done? Why was there not geofencing? Why was there not statement analysis done? I could go on and on. This is 101 stuff. And I just want to say very clearly, when you have a death that is clearly not accidental, it's clearly not natural causes, it ought to be worked like a homicide until you know different. And that was not done here.
Yeah.
I mean, to us, there's no way that this was a hit and run. What do you think about that theory?
It doesn't appear to be a hit and run to me for a couple of reasons. I mean, obviously, you would want to see if there's headlights or other debris from a vehicle in the road that struck something. You would want to look for, is there any skid marks where somebody saw somebody, but it was too late and hit them. None of that seems to be the case here. Also, the victim is still wearing tennis shoes and a slip-on shoe, which you would think they would not be able to stay in those shoes if that was the case, if it was a high impact. However, there are some things that worry me. And let me just tell you, if this were my case, the mark on his back that is circular and has a black mark of some substance, anytime you have a pattern injury, a pattern wound, I would start with that wound and work out. Can I determine what caused this, yes or no? I have not seen the photographs. I don't have access to that. Yeah. All I have is the autopsy report. But when I read that one sentence, what leaped out at me, y'all, is that is possibly a tire. So now I'm going to work backwards from that and see if I can make these other wounds make sense to me. This is why you do an accident reconstruction. How in the world did he get on that shoulder? Was he thrown from a car? Did he fall out of a truck bed where they were surfing and being silly? Was he struck while he was walking down the road? If you don't do that accident reconstruction, you can't determine that. If you can't determine that, then all this other stuff is going to get more and more convoluted and confusing. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
And I think, that's one of the theories that have been bantered around that, they talk about the side-by-side ATV rollover, but that's still, we can't get consistent statements on that. Some people say there was, some people said there wasn't. Some people say there was damage to the ATV side by sides. Some people say there wasn't. Even as
Let's talk about that, Rob.
Yeah.
Because, again, you don't need their statements. I don't want their statements yet. If you follow the evidence, right? He had 10 wounds, 10 that would have been fatal. Well, that didn't occur on the ATV, and then he walked away from that party, right?
Exactly.
No.
That doesn't mean that 1 or 2 injuries didn't occur on that ATV. Now, here's my problem with the ATV. One, everybody at that party is taking pictures, taking videos, posting night and day for the whole 3 or 4 days. I ain't seen a picture of the ATV. I ain't heard nobody talking about the crash. I don't have a video of the crash. So I don't know exactly what happened. So when somebody says to me it was on its side and they lifted it back up, maybe. I don't know that to be a fact. I have no proof that that happened.
That was one of our biggest things. They were filming everything. These kids are filming and pictures, everything all weekend. If he was doing something like surfing on an ATV, they would have taken a picture. If they were giving him a shower, they would have taken a picture.
Absolutely. Okay, so here we go. The ATV, let's say that maybe he's driving. Maybe they claimed he was driving because the person driving doesn't want to get sued. Maybe the person driving was scared. Maybe the whole group of them were scared. But here's what I know. If you got a 4-seater, no way there's only 4 boys on that thing. Maybe Noah was on the handlebars in the front. Because when you've got these bilateral injuries, these severe injuries, if he were holding on and they crashed that thing and ran over him, could that be what happened? Because if he's on the front, they couldn't stop in time. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting also is that no one can tell us who was in the side by side.
Exactly.
No, there's we can't get it because if you would say, there weren't that many. We hear who was at the party, but no one can tell us who was in the side by side crash. Who was there?
Okay, but just imagine you're at a party, everybody's been drinking and having a great time for 4 days. Those boys are going to pile on that thing. So it is possible that he was not driving. It is possible he was on the front of it. Is it possible it ran over him? Maybe. Maybe he got a head injury then that nobody understood. They just thought he was drunk. Because if you're telling me there's a 19-year-old that 2 girls are having to help take a shower and then they're feeding him, what bothers me and concerns me, that says he could not do these things on his own. Well, after a 4-day period, how many times did they have to shower him? None, except that night. How many times was somebody feeding him? None. In the past 2 years, how many times did somebody have to do those things for him? I bet none. So this night, very specific for me, is a concern that he is unable. Most of the people that are going to listen to this podcast have at least one time in their life been intoxicated where they couldn't walk straight, shouldn't drive, maybe got into a fight. Were they unable to take a shower? Were they unable to feed themselves? That's a concern for me. That might indicate he was already injured, a brain injury.
Yeah.
Not the fatal injuries. So then at that point, he's looking, to go to bed. Avery says, no, you can't come in my bed. He gets angry, allegedly. He puts on his one Adidas shoe, can't find the other one, sees the Hey-Do, put that on, and starts walking down the road north. Is it possible that he then got struck by a car? And what's critical for me is, remember the 911 caller, I don't know if it's the second or the third one, where he says, I'm going to park my car here and block him because I almost hit him. I thought it was a deer. Is it possible? Well, let's look at the facts. If he was killed at that house, what are the odds clumps of hair would also successfully be transferred to the street? None. What about these teeth? None. So when now you're talking about both shoulders, multiple head injuries, vertebrae, and 10 ribs, that sounds like somebody that got run over. just from here up.
Yeah. But
So
we were
we have to look at the possibility, right? And
absolutely.
why in the world was an accident reconstruction not done? Why won't they look at, and let me tell you one more thing. I keep reading and I keep hearing he was in the fetal position. I don't think that's true.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't.
Okay. I don't think it's possible that he was. Because again, I believe there was a secondary event that caused these injuries. And if that's the case, it makes more sense to me that there was one event where he's injured on top of being intoxicated. But certainly he, from what I have understood from friends and family, and I've talked to 2 family members and I've read what all the friends have said, but I haven't read anything where he has a habit of blacking out. He has a habit of not being able to take care of himself. I have read where he would leave parties sometime and start walking. So is that possible? You can't take it off the table.
What about the injury on the back of his head where the hair is?
Yeah, I want to share something with you because we heard a recording with someone who was at the scene. I won't say who it was, but they described it to the people that they were describing it to, that the head wound, and he actually used a personal experience that he had when he was a younger person where him and his friends would do like horrible things to, like raccoons, and they use golf clubs to kind of, harm them. And he said the wound on the head and like basically almost like scalp them, scalp them, damage and scalp, see, he was talking about the head wound and he said it looked just like almost like a divot from a golf club. There was a flap and there, and then they had the 4x2 impression of his, the impact on his head back here. And so, I mean, that to me, it's just like, yeah, could that have happened if he fell out of a back of a truck or ATV? Sure. But this guy was pretty specific. It looked like it was just chopped out. So that's what's kind of interesting, I thought.
I can tell you with my experience, he didn't fall out of the back of a truck. His legs have no injury. None. His legs, his knees, his thighs, the back, the front, the sides. It would be indicative of somebody falling out of a truck and getting road rash everywhere. That's not the case here. The second thing is, if he's hit and run over by the ATV, or if he's hit by a secondary vehicle, without us knowing the vehicle, is it a low rider truck? Is it a souped up, big lifted truck and the exhaust hit him? The fact is we don't know any of that. We don't know. But what I do know is near his body is a molar. Y'all listen to me. That ain't a front tooth getting knocked out. That's a molar. You're talking about at least 5 or 6 teeth back in your head. That don't happen without severe just pressure, right? So what would cause that would not leave an imprint? So I worked a case where a guy was beaten with a golf club. It was obvious it was a golf club.
Mm-hmm.
Lines and marks all down his back and on his arms. You could see the imprint. If we don't have that conclusively, then we don't have it.
Yeah.
And the thing I tried to explain to the family, I don't have the benefit of seeing it. I'm taking somebody else's opinion that it makes this mark or whatnot. I'd like to see it myself. But I'm going to tell you again, with cars going by that body, with 2 clumps of hair being there, that didn't happen in transport. Those teeth did not fall out in transport. Something occurred there on the side of that road. And if you follow the evidence, you have Noah's body, teeth, hair, shorts. Follow it. Something was moving when that happened to him. And again, you've got the mark on his back, which is the reason I don't think that he could have ever been in the fetal position. I think the arms are going to be in different positions. I think the legs are going to be apart because something hit him, is what I think. But again, I can't be clear enough.
I know.
They have shared nothing.
I know.
Nothing. But when you read that autopsy report, And I have seen the markings on the street or the highway. Off that highway, right there at the shoulder. You know, the railroad tracks are west. He's walking north. And then there you have all the evidence laid out.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, it's like, the only thing that we kind of, talk about is the fact that, the first sheriff deputy who showed up, he was kind of preaching that it was a hit and run. And then when OHP showed up, they immediately, because we know the OHP officer who showed up, and he said, he goes, I've done tons of traffic hits and stuff like that. And he goes, it didn't look like a hit and run. It definitely did not hit. And then the family showed up, the brother and the father showed up, and they said it looked like he was just dropped there. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and that's interesting.
Hit and run and running over somebody who's already on the ground are two different things.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
A hit and run and running over somebody that's already on the ground are two different things.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't have debris. You wouldn't have the road rash, right? You wouldn't. So if he leaves that party on foot, which is what some people have claimed, and he already had a head injury from the ATV, got a mile down the road and collapsed, is it possible that somebody couldn't see him and ran over him?
Absolutely.
And go back to the 911 caller. He's already on the shoulder and he almost ran over him. That's his statement, and he ain't got a dog in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is a key statement. The other thing that is key are the injuries that are not there, that should be there. Again, I've never worked a hit and run where the person was not injured on their hips, their thighs, their knees, etc. Never. It's not possible that a car hits you while you're standing up and the lower extremities don't have some injury. He doesn't have that here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, that's something that you've got to look at, that law enforcement, by doing a crime scene reconstruction, could answer some of these questions, even for themselves. Because, again, keep in mind what you have. You have law enforcement that calls it suspicious. You have another agency that says, hey, we ain't working a homicide. And then you have a medical examiner that says undetermined.
I know.
How do you sit with family? How do you possibly sit with them and basically go,
yeah,
we don't know. That's why we're doing this.
oh, yeah. Of course. I mean, that was rhetorical for y'all. And
I know.
Yeah, I know.
It's just, but it is. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. It's like, how do you do this? Just say, okay, well, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. And we're going to let that hang that way for a year or so.
What about him being naked and the shorts?
We're going to harp on him being naked, which I understand. But the reality is he was only wearing shorts. So there is no shirt. There is no underwear, right? There are no socks. So we're harping on that. The reality is, again, if you look at the teeth, you look at the hair, is it possible that if he were hit, they could have just been drug off? I've heard there's no injuries to the shorts. I don't know if that's true. I haven't inspected them. I don't know.
Let me tell you something, because there's two pair of shorts in question here. Okay. There's a pair of shorts that they said he was wearing at the time that they said was in the middle of the road.
The white.
Okay. The white. Yeah, they're white and gray, and they had like Comanche High School on it. They were wrestling shorts. Then there were shorts that he was actually wearing throughout the weekend, a pair of black shorts which we physically saw, and up close and personal, and they were damaged. They were tattered, and there was actually a cigarette hole burn there. We don't know if it was a cigarette, but it was like a burn hole. Mm-hmm. But they were tattered. Okay. Right? Those were also shorts that were found
at the scene.
Well, we've had witnesses say that they saw him.
Okay.
Yeah,
wearing black shorts when they went down there first.
Exactly. We heard that from his friend Jack, who went to the scene, one of the first kids to the scene, when he saw that there was cars stopped by in the shoulder. And he said that Noah was naked and he just had the Hey Dudes and the shoe. He said he only had one shoe on, when other people say two. And this is the problem with the whole case, just the misinformation. And then he said he saw those white Comanche shorts in the middle of the road. He actually went out and physically picked them up and put them in his bed, his truck of his bed. And then later on picked them up and then put them next to Noah's body.
And then
after that,
I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry.
And then when the other friends came, like about 15, 20 minutes later, he was magically wearing black shorts. So it's like, what's going on here? I mean, it's like, you know, this crime scenes.
One, was this child never covered up?
He was covered up. I can't remember if he was covered up. When the friends showed up later on, he wasn't covered up because the one friend went to go back to his Jeep to get a sheet or a blanket to cover him up. And then they told those kids, get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the people that were there, like the people who told them.
One of the friends picked up the shorts.
Yes.
Which tells me you've got somebody inside your crime scene that doesn't belong there, should never be that close to him, shouldn't be able to see what they allegedly saw, what they're stating that they saw.
Exactly.
I also heard that Jack's father showed up and even pointed out and or picked up one of the teeth. There's some confusion there, which again is what I'm telling you. When you don't do it right, it leads to confusion. It leads to rumor. It leads to conspiracy. It leads for everybody to say law enforcement doesn't know what they're doing. It's home cooking. They're covering something up because you didn't do it right.
Yeah.
I mean, for these kids not to have their phones taken, for them not to be interviewed immediately, the ones that are 17 and above, that should have happened that very night. The side-by-side should have been taken. To not think forensically on that.
Yeah. I mean, they eventually took everybody's phones and they did question them. I think it was, I'm not sure when it was, but it was, you know, it was I don't know if it was a week after, 2 weeks after, but to me, it's just like, that's crucial time. It's crucial.
Take everybody's phone?
Excuse me?
Did you say they did take everybody's phone?
I don't know if they took them, but they scanned them. We don't know.
Not everybody.
Not everybody. The one kid that offered his phone, a young guy named Caden Pressey, I mean, he wasn't questioned until like a month later.
But he had to seek it out. They didn't come.
He basically goes, don't you guys want my phone? Don't you want this? And then just recently, he reached out to him again, like about a month ago, and they still didn't want his phone. They didn't want his information. And he was very smart to record all those conversations so people can say, well, I tried, and this is the result.
Well, the side-by-side, Jack's father had told Noah's father that side-by-side did not have any damage on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do believe Jack said that it did.
Well, see, again, there's a problem, but it may not have any damage if, let's say, Noah's on the front of it, falls off, run over him. It wouldn't have any damage.
Yeah.
It could have evidence underneath. It could have more clumps of hair. It could have a tooth. We don't know because they didn't do anything.
If that's what happened, if it was an accident like that, why won't they just say that?
Well, they might have panicked. And now that somebody has died, everybody's worried about covering something up. They're worried about,
liability, all that kind of stuff.
About liability, but you could also be charged if it wasn't on purpose. I mean, if you're driving down the expressway and your tire comes off and you hit somebody and you kill them, they could charge you criminally.
Yeah.
So people panic. But the thing that shocks me about that theory is if all the people at that party did have this information, it is difficult for me to believe that 40 people have that kind of loyalty to whoever this person is that might have hurt him and not to Noah. So you can look historically, like Michael Phelps. He's at a party with people he thinks he can trust and somebody videotapes him smoking weed. I mean, people say things about people, right? I mean, Kim Kardashian put out a phone call with Taylor Swift and Kanye West. She didn't know she was being recorded. She didn't know that was going to be put out. You can't trust people. And just because they're in your inner circle, so to speak, or somebody you think you can trust, ain't nobody at your high school going to be that loyal to you. Nobody's going to help cover something up for a year.
Yeah.
Leave all 40 people.
I don't think it was that night. There wasn't 40 people at the house.
At the time.
But the people that were there, the other people are talking to them. Like, there's no way that, like, if I was at a party with you for 3 days and you left at 2 and this happened on day 3, you know I'm calling you, Cindy.
Yeah.
You're not going to believe what happened. Rob out and, hit Nancy Grace in the head. I mean, you know I'm going to call you.
Right.
Yeah.
But then my loyalty, is it to Rob or to Nancy Grace? It's going to be real clear, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's understand, where are all these other people if in fact he was attacked or beat or left to just go by himself incoherent. I just hard to believe is all.
Yeah. No, I agree. Because, like, you can't even get 3 people to keep a secret, unless 2 of them are dead. It's like, but that's why it's confusing. But it's really unique that, from what we've heard is that, everybody's data on their phone and everything, social media, were all scrubbed shortly after. So that's a little suspicious. So I don't know what to really say about that. And
also these attacks on the family, on social media, and attacks on Noah, trying to blame him from the family that had the party. Like, why are they saying those things?
Yeah.
I mean, if they truly
everybody's going to get it.
Yeah.
Everybody. Because you're talking about a little bitty small town. Everybody is either related, friends, go to church, went to the same school, work at the same place. I mean, it's incestuous. And the bottom line is everybody's got something or somebody to protect. So that means your second cousin twice removed, you're not going to let anybody talk about Noah. Well, if Jack's your nephew, you're not going to let that happen either. If Asmund is your cousin, you're not going to let that happen either. So all these outside people, these perimeter people, are now helping enclose this, circle of silence, and nobody wants to talk anymore. They just want it to go away. They want to move on with their lives, but it's not going anywhere.
No, that's the thing. Because there's so many questions. And I think you brought up a lot of great points about, the body and the placement and, the tooth. Because you're right. Yeah, molar takes a lot to knock out a molar.
A lot.
So and it was more than one, I think.
I mean, those cars whizzing by, that hair would have moved. So again, I just question so much. I wish they would reach out. I wish they would let some of us really get in there and help. Because one of the things, if you start looking at the timeline, I know y'all know it like nobody's business, but if he starts telling that one kid at 1:42, you're like, slap me. Like, there's a little bit of that playful aggression, but still kind of aggressive, right? And if he slaps me, I'm going to chase him, and maybe we're, quote, play fighting. You know how they do. But then by 2:40, Avery's posting something about the crash, but there's no video, and now it's gone. There's no other pictures from all these other people. So now you're a little confused. Well, then, what is it, 3:41? They're posting Noah's missing. Well, you posted that while smiling. Who knew that? Where is Jack? Where's Caleb? Where's all these people? You can't just say I was asleep. You can't say I didn't know. Enough people knew for that young lady to post he was missing.
I know that's the thing was weird. That I found that really bizarre. I mean, it's almost like it's a timestamp, and we did find out that you can manipulate timestamps in Snapchat. So that's it's not like burned in there. So was that then, or was it another time to kind of? I mean, it seems like they're kind of creating a narrative right then by posting that.
Okay. So now you have 2 hours from when she posted it to the 911 call. What we don't know is how long he was on the side of the road.
Exactly.
Was he there 30 minutes? Was he there 2 hours? We don't know before that 911 call, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from 3:41 to the 5:46 or whatever it is, again, they should do a geofence. They should know who went right by his body.
I think they're doing that.
That's what we heard. They are doing that. But also, Jack had texted someone that Noah had passed at 4 a.m. And he said that law enforcement told him that. But we asked law enforcement. They said they don't know what time he passed.
they wouldn't know unless there was an eyewitness or somebody that came forward and say, I thought it was a deer, but now I think it was him.
Yeah. But even then, you don't know the exact time.
There's no way.
I mean, you can guess it. I mean, I'm sure a medical examiner or coroner can guess the approximate time of dead based upon
30.
what happened to the body. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but what's the window? Is it like within an hour or 30 minutes?
For a medical examiner to tell you time of death,
Yeah.
no way they're getting within 30 minutes.
I was going to say.
Not happening. I mean,
Nope.
it's right. So
Yeah.
we know that maybe wasn't the case, but we know from the autopsy report that rigor was present. We
Yep.
know contents still in his stomach. So again, there's things we do know, and we give you a time frame. But again, that's one of those things. A totality is what you're looking for, not an absolute.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think if you look at the timeline, you look at what was said, what was not said, and if you say to yourself, okay, they gave this child a shower, how long would that take? 15 minutes? And then they fed him some yogurt. What is that, another 10? And made him some ramen noodles or something, allegedly. And then he wanted to get in bed with Avery. That's another 5 minutes. She says no. Then he gets his shoes on and he's leaving. And he's got to walk a mile. Well, if he's somewhat delirious and intoxicated, walking a mile might take him 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
No, yeah, it's a distance. We've been there. We see from the house, it's like,
yeah,
it's not around the corner.
not around the corner. So if that's a solid hour, he could have been there an hour.
Yeah.
And again, without law enforcement doing every single step necessary. And y'all, I'm not asking for some latest, greatest technology. This
No.
is Side 101. And again, when you have a suspicious death or a death that you cannot readily explain, you work it as a homicide till you can prove differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you said something about the ramen noodles and the yogurt. All they found was brown liquid in the contents of his stomach.
Right.
So, so there's, did they feed them ramen noodles and yogurt?
That's why I brought it up, because the content is there.
No, it would have been there. We've talked to,
No,
mean,
I'm saying the contents of his stomach was there. They saw it. They noted it. So it appeared to me, again, where's the pasta?
right. That's what I'm
Exactly.
saying. They would have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
They would have seen the pasta for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yep.
wasn't. They didn't see it in his stomach.
Just brown
So,
liquid, which was probably
beer or alcohol.
Yes.
So many confusing things. But yeah, I mean, that's going back to what we said before. It's just when they don't freeze that crime scene and they don't, I mean, the officer on duty at the time, I guess he went to the house to look, but he was more looking for car parts and stuff. But the house is pretty far away from there. It's like an L shaped. There's a big field in between there. There's railroad tracks and there's a dirt road. So, I mean, I just don't understand why when you see someone dead in a roadside and they came from a party that was around the corner, like a mile away, why wouldn't you start questioning people right then and there to find out who was the last person that saw him?
Oh.
No one goes anywhere. Do it right then and there. Check the scene. Even if you don't have a warrant, you can check the outside of the scene. Most of the partying was done outside, underneath the patio, based upon the videos. Why wouldn't you do all those things? And I just think they weren't equipped to handle it that way. And I don't know what they were thinking, but everybody that we've talked to from a law enforcement perspective has kind of said the same thing. They missed that window of opportunity, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle after you walk away. And it wasn't like they got Noah out of there quickly. He was there for most of the day, and once they closed down the road, I mean, and it's like, there's no way anybody else can kind of infiltrate that scene. It's middle of farmland, and there's one road, 2-lane highway, very shallow shoulder,
Yep.
So it's just confusing.
I mean, we did have a witness come and say that she was driving home around 5:30 ish, and she saw,
earlier than that.
maybe it was like 5:15 ish,
I thought it was around 5. Anyway.
Anyway, she was driving home early, like maybe before 5 o'clock. And she saw 3 people on an ATV that pulled out and scared her.
From that location. Where he was found. No.
And that's what I'm saying. That is starting to make more sense to me. I believe, honestly, the ATV ran over him. I do. I do.
Yeah.
I think the injuries dictate that. I think, again, you start with the pattern injury and you work out. The injury to his neck, spine, lungs, he didn't walk after that. He didn't walk after that head injury. He didn't walk after the 3rd head injury. He didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
A horrible, sad, gut-wrenching situation. And every single person just about in that town is affected. And so you would think at some point somebody would come forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I think, in addition to the crime scene not being fully addressed the way it should have been, the other thing that is the reaction from the people who were at the party and their actions was a little bit surprising too. The fact that, from what we've heard from people that were there, that, there was some crying and then they just went straight to bed. They cleaned up the place like crazy. There was just, bleached it out. They hid there was 3 weapons. There was a shotgun, a bolt action rifle, an AR-15 that what you can see one of the kids in the video is holding in the background when they're doing the little slap thing. So they gathered those up. It just seemed like if there was nothing really going on, why do all that?
Well, there's a whole thing that we do when we work a case, and pre and post behavior is part of it. And that's a big, big thing. What were people doing before? What were people doing supposedly during, if you have that window? And what are they doing after? And it'll show you. It'll show you clearly. If nobody's calling his cell phone, nobody's driving around looking for him. If he's missing, nobody's going after him. Nobody's on that 4-wheeler going, hey, Noah, come back. Don't be mad. You can talk to Carter if you want to. That didn't happen. You got supposedly the 2 sisters on the porch arguing. You've got people cleaning up. You've got people, again, I just went to bed. Okay, do their phones indicate that?
Yeah.
Did social media just stop like an iron door?
Exactly.
Everybody sleep at the exact same time. Look at the Idaho situation. Several might have been asleep, but one is ordering DoorDash. One's on their phone playing a game. That's normal. There's no way 12 of these kids went to sleep at the exact same time. And no phone is there.
No.
That's me. It means something. And again, if you don't do everything, this is what is going to happen. And I try to tell young rookie detectives, listen, you think this mama is a pain in the butt? Wait till you have a mama that ain't got no answers. Her phone's going to ring every day. And then they're going to call people like Rob and Cindy. And then they're going to call people like Nancy Grace. And then they're going to call people like Joe Scott Morgan. This thing ain't going away. You've got to give them answers. You've got to show them that you did your due diligence. It's your freaking job, first of all. And second of all, you can't sit with somebody and say, well, this is what happened. Your loved one killed themselves, but we don't know how. Huh?
Exactly.
Nobody accepting that. Well, it's a horrible accident, but we don't know how. Nobody's accepting that.
No.
Murdered, but we don't know how. Nobody's accepting that. You have got to have more information than you need. When I used to work cases with Nancy, when she was my prosecutor, honey, we'd get here and I'd be like, Nancy, we are good. Look at this case. It is solid. She would want more. She would want more. I don't ever fault her for that, because anytime you sit with a family, they're going to have questions that you might not even have anticipated. You better have an answer.
Yeah.
If I knew that Noah was walking north, what good am I? If I don't know what direction he was facing, if I don't know, in fact, he was not in the fetal position, if I can't explain how a molar comes out of your head, then what good am I to you?
No. Yeah. I just want to do that other part again because I remember now what time it was. I just want to make sure it's correct because I don't want to get
just repeat it.
crucified here. So a witness came forward and told us that at 4:48 a.m. they were driving home from work and they saw 3 people on an ATV right where Noah was, which we thought was interesting, where he was found.
Okay. And see, again, that might in that timeline make sense. Because if that person has no idea what time 911 was called and they don't have a dog in this fight, it bleeds right into, hey, this is before he was found and 911 was called the first time.
Yeah. And then what was interesting too is that we were told by Caden Presti when we interviewed him that earlier on, I don't know what time, but way earlier on when they were driving around in the side-by-side, they did jump the railroad tracks and nothing happened though. So, and if you look when we were down there, how railroad tracks are just kind of like elevated above the ground a little bit. And there's usually like a slope up to them and a slope down. And there was farmland right behind it. And then you have a slope down. Then you have the shallow shoulder. And then Highway 81's right there.
Well, you know, it's funny because Dr. Laura Petler and I told her that. I said, I can see railroad tracks from the one photograph of the markings on the highway. And I said, that might be why his skull had that impression, because those tracks, if he hit it just perfect, again, if he fell off and then they panicked and said, hey, we got it. And they kept going, right? Because perpetual motion, they went a little further. They're now toward the highway. Did they go get him and try to carry him down? Is that when the shorts came off? Like, I don't know.
Exactly.
This is why they should go back and they should measure everything and they should take that impression and they should go back and say, hey, you're not going to believe this. But the 4x2 is making sense to me right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And he had like clumps of grass inside the hay dudes as well.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting too.
Me too.
What could that be from?
Again, if you look at from the railroad track to the street, if they were carrying him and one foot was dragging because they had the other one and maybe had the shorts and that's where the shorts came off. Again, who knows? But he supposedly had 2 different types of gravel, one in the shoulder, one in the buttocks. That should have been taken from the scene. I would have scooped up gravel from the road if I thought the railroad tracks were involved at all and that had gravel up there, which usually it's a little bit larger gravel, but whatever.
Yeah, it's big chunks of rocks.
I would take that too, though. And I would at least be able to show this doesn't match or this does. No question. I would also, let me say it again. I'm sorry, y'all. I would have also scanned that whole area. Do I see any tracks from an ATV? You can see the impression in grass. It's not hard. Is any fresh?
And now you can't do that because they have corn. Because they have a cross there. A lot of people have been walking in there. It's like a little memorial for Noah there. So it's completely not intact. But if you look beyond just the left to the right of it, it's pretty grassy. Big clump,
Sure. But again, all of that should have been done.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for the family on how to deal with law enforcement at this point?
Well, I spoke to them at length just last night for the last time. And then we texted a little bit this morning because again, I didn't want to say anything and them not know what I was going to say. I wanted them to understand with my limited visual report, which I don't have anything except the markings of where he was on the highway and then the autopsy report. I think they're doing the right thing. I think that they need to keep communication open with law enforcement. It is difficult not to get angry. It is difficult not to get impatient, but this is a long game. This isn't a quick, easy fix. It might take time for somebody at that party to mature a little bit. They might be scared to death at 17. They're not going to be at 23. It might take somebody, hey, I got in trouble for this, but I'm going to give them that to get out of trouble. It could be that they just collectively say, y'all, we have got to come forward and let everybody know nothing happened to him. This is not a murder. This is not a cover-up. And then explain what did happen. This was not some magical, hey, just there's no way to say it politely.
Yeah.
Again, law enforcement has the brunt of the responsibility here, not this family.
Yeah.
So again, my advice to them was to be patient, work it the way they need to work it, keep the case alive, keep talking to people. I mean, they've got my personal cell phone if there is ever anything I can answer for them. But again, it's going to be limited.
Yeah.
I don't need to have.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Because when we went down there, because they were talking about, they said there was a blood stain there and there's like a spray paint mark around it right now. But how long would blood be on asphalt?
Asphalt is porous. It's going to seep in immediately. If you've ever been anywhere where you're hiking and you pour water, it just almost goes away immediately.
Okay, because there's still a red mark there, which I think is probably some sort of fluid from a car that's stained it. Because
it's been a time with wind and rain and flooding, and I'd like to see it.
Yeah, it didn't look like. I mean, I looked at it. I actually touched it. I mean, it's like I couldn't even scrape it.
Yeah,
it was literally stained in there, and that to me looked like some sort of automotive fluid, something like that, transmission fluid that stains. I know what that looks like when it stains concrete.
Think of how many murders have occurred in New York City on the sidewalks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Never seen blood.
No.
Exactly.
So that's all I can tell you.
What do you think about, speaking about the blood, the fact that there was really not a whole lot of blood at the scene? All internal damage, yeah.
Internal damage, 100%. Looks like a hinge injury. I mean, he's bleeding out of both of his ears. Most of the things are bilateral. Again, that's why I think at some point he was run over. I do. I mean,
do you think he could have been hit in the head with something and then get run over?
There's a possibility, and that's why I'm saying I would like to see the crime scene reconstruction, because when you're talking about multiple head injuries, because your head is going to be moving, right? And if you're hit on something like a railroad track or a roadway, whatever's hitting you is hitting you, and so is the roadway. So you're going to have multiple injuries. There's no doubt. And if you're turned even just a little bit, but when you look at both shoulders, both lungs, and 10 ribs, something hit him straight away at the same time. That wasn't a golf club. It wasn't a baseball bat. It wasn't a shotgun. That is something that can do a powerful impression injury. And you've got that pattern on his back that is circular with an unknown black substance. It sounds like. Yeah.
Very well could be. Well, we always, like, our first impression that it was an accident, that and the young kids at the party freaked out and didn't know what to do.
Yep.
And then just either left him there or kind of staged it, because we had, I don't know if you know, Stuart Fillmore, retired FBI. We had him on a couple weeks ago. Sure. First thing he said was, he goes, he looks like he was just placed there based upon what he saw, everything like that. And that's kind of like when you look at it and the way they have it, when we went down there, we're actually physically at the scene. That's kind of how it looked too, because it was off the road.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I personally don't think he was hit by a car going down that road. I think he was put there after he was hit by something. And I do think he was hit with something in the back of the head, just from looking at that.
He could have. But then he's supposedly at the house. He now takes a shower. They feed him. He gets mad. He leaves, and somebody tracks him down and hits him. And then he goes a little bit further and dies. And then that doesn't explain all the other injuries. So again, even if he's hit in the head, let's say with a golf club, how did the other injuries occur, and how did he get to where he got without all of these 12 people knowing it and seeing it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, his injuries, 10 that are fatal, move from that spot. And I'm telling you, if you take somebody in a car and drive them a mile and toss them on the side of the road, their molar ain't there. Their hair ain't there. It's not. It's right where something major happened to him.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's definitely, it's a gigantic puzzle. It's confusing.
It's a puzzle that they could put together if they wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, they had the photographs.
I know
how he looked when they got there. They know exactly from the autopsy what the injuries look like. They know exactly, right, what that pattern on his back looks like. I don't have the ability or the good fortune to see it. I would do anything if I could see it, then I might could give a little more information. But I know that the people that have it could, and I think that it would be great if they would block out a day and sit with the family with the case file right there and answer anything they could that would not jeopardize anything future.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope for the family's sake that it was just an accident and not something sinister. Because I think that's going to be harder for them to accept.
Yeah.
Well, I will
And-
say this, Cindy. I don't see how it was anything sinister for him to be where he was.
Mhm.
Unless somebody tracked him down and beat him right there and then left. But again, this does not look like a beating. On his back, if somebody had a golf club, there would be lines. It would be clear that he was struck with an object.
Even if it would,
Even if it
what
was
if they
just one
just hit him
blow
in
to
the
the head.
back of the head?
But that doesn't explain the lungs.
No,
and
I know.
No, I know.
So, I mean, if he was hit in the back of the head and then run over to make it look like a hit and run,
now
that's what I think might have happened.
and that's what
Like maybe someone hit him in the back of the head, didn't realize they killed him. Like, oh my God, didn't realize. Like, you're mad and you hit someone in the back of the head, you don't realize the damage you're doing. That's potentially possible.
But we have to explain the other injuries.
Right, which I think he was run over by something that, maybe that was a way to say, oh, he got hit by something. I don't know. It just, something feels off to me about all of it. I just think if it was just an accident, just say that and give this family some peace.
Yeah.
But, you're young and scared. Think how many people have a really good friend OD. They roll up at the hospital, toss them out and peel off.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the way they were partying and documenting every single thing, there's no way they didn't document that crash. All laughing, showing the ATV on its side or upside down.
That's what I was saying.
That's what we
too.
were saying too.
That's what I was saying.
Even the shower, they were writing on his naked body. If they gave him a shower together,
he was naked, just on his.
No, on his. They were writing on his butt.
Oh.
They were drawing on his butt, and they filmed it. They filmed them drawing his butt. So if he's in a shower, taking a shower, and he's wasted, why isn't someone filming that?
Well, they did. I saw the picture of his fanny with all their names written on it.
No, I know, but in the actual shower, why did?
Sure. Or right after.
Right.
Agreed.
That's the part I don't understand, because it's like, here you are drawing on his butt, but you're not going to take a picture of him taking a shower or film him taking a shower. You would have been laughing. Like, we have to give him a shower, I mean, I don't know. That part doesn't sit with me.
Well, the other part that doesn't sit with me is you claim you fed him. If he is as injured can't even talk. Sorry, y'all. If he is as injured as I believe that he was initially and intoxicated, I don't think he wanted anything to eat. I don't think he asked for anything to eat. I think that's a weird thing to say. Like, you're caring for him. You're trying to prove to everybody you were caring for him. So again, there's a lot of things that need to be cleared up, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah. And who knows who's going to be talking, because there's a lot of jockeying for position as far as narratives. How you have one, you have the victim's family, they're an open book trying to figure out what's going on. Then you have the people that hosted the party. I mean, they lawyered up very quickly, and they, and I understand that part of it, someone and, liability wise, they have to protect their assets. They have to protect themselves. So I get that, but I just thought it was interesting that was the first reaction and not like reaching out to the family, trying to find answers. If it truly was an accident, it's almost like their gag reflex was like, oh, we're going to get in trouble for this. So let's immediately go on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that weird a little bit, because
I don't know their situation, but I've heard that people that have a lot of money or a lot of assets, that is their knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand that part if they didn't really know Noah and their kids had a party. someone ends up dead, you're like, oh my God, now I'm going to be responsible. I have to get a lawyer. I understand that part. What I don't understand is all the hate that the family has been getting on social media from that side and not helping trying to figure out what happened.
And again, I haven't been privy, y'all, I'm sorry. I don't know why I can't talk right this minute.
It's okay.
Mhm.
I have not been privy to seeing any of that. I know that I was told there's lots of threats, lots of, really ugly things being said. I know y'all been threatened.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As far as, I wish the family wouldn't even be on social media if you want to know the truth.
Well,
help them at all.
they really aren't.
No.
They aren't. I mean, they aren't publishing anything on social media, and they, I think early on they may have responded, but they're not doing any of that. It's like, it's an organism as in itself right now. It's kind of taken a life of its own.
Yeah. I mean, reading the trash. I mean, they should just save themselves. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I most of them don't read it.
Good.
Most of them don't read it. They just ignore it. They like, this is just noise and it's stupid. But it's stupid. Everyone's really brave behind a keyboard. It's dumb.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But this is a situation where you look at those pictures of him and you just say, man, I mean, he just graduated from high school. He's got everything in the world ahead of him. He's cute. He's fun, obviously well liked and loved. And it's just pitiful. It is
absolutely heartbreaking. And after meeting everybody down there, I literally cried every day talking to them. It's just, so many people love this boy. It's so sad. It's really sad.
Worked a case with you, and I walked with you day after day. And that one night we did a night scene, and I know you lead with your heart on these things. I mean, you got so emotional even that night. And Maureen O'Connell and I talked about it, and I said, you know what? Every single case deserves that reaction. Because if you can get to a point where you are as heartbroken as the people that are related to these victims, now we're going to get something done. Because you and Rob, on your own dime, have done so much. And people don't even know it.
No.
People don't know it. They're like, oh, you got a podcast. That's cool. Oh, you're videotaping and you get to talk to people like Maureen O'Connell and y'all are so lucky. They don't know that you take your own time and your own money. And sometimes, like right after Thanksgiving, before Christmas, when you didn't have a boatload of it, and you do it anyway because you believe in it. And I think this is a situation where I told the family last night, I told both of them, I said, listen, I know what Rob and Cindy are about. And I know if there's anything that can be done, they're going to do it. And I am right here to help them if I can with the limited physical evidence that we have and the limited things that were done forensically. But again, I just appreciate y'all. And I just wanted to say that out loud for anybody that was listening.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
right
you,
back
Matt.
at you.
We love you too. You're amazing. I mean, honestly, it's such an honor to work with you on that, Molly and Cold. And now, if you can help us with this,
yeah,
it really is.
Because it's so confusing, and it just gets. We literally, our phones are lighting up since we started this every day, like at least 10 or 12 times a day.
I was told about 20 years ago by Chief Eddie Moody that homicide ain't ever complicated, that this ain't Agatha Christie. And if it is complicated, it's because somebody did not do their job.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that might be the case. And like we love OHP. We love the guys down there, but I just think that it just wasn't done the proper way in the beginning, especially when they knew that it looked suspicious. Like you said, it should have been treated like, a suspicious death. And when you have that, it's a totally different ballgame.
Well, let me say this. If it was a naked woman on the side of the road, it wouldn't have been suspicious. It would have been worked as a homicide.
Really?
Why would a 19-year-old boy be any different?
No.
So why do you think? Why do you think it would have been treated differently if it was a naked 19-year-old girl?
Well, think about it. Why would a woman be naked? Your automatic thought would be what?
Rape.
So you already have a crime. And now she's on the side of the road dead and naked. Obviously, you're going to work that as a homicide. Why would you not do that for a 19-year-old boy? You should. So if I were to ask you, hey, I got a 19-year-old girl on the side of the shoulder of Highway 81, dead, looks like she's got a bunch of injuries, but not a whole lot of blood, and she's naked. Homicide. Homicide till you can prove different. Possibly a sexual assault. So we're going to handle it that way. Just because you change gender does not mean you go, well, it was probably an accident. He probably fell out of a truck. It doesn't add up. So I'm just saying again, work it as worst case scenario until you see, oh no, I get it now between the witnesses, the injuries, the statements. I get what happened here. Well, we don't have that yet after a year or more. So
last question. The medical examiner's report, it was released in May, like almost 8-9 months later. Why do you think, because they don't have to release that, do they? Why do you think they released it? And why didn't they make available to at least, because the family, Noah's family has a medical examiner in the family, and she requested the photographs and she was denied. So I'm just saying.
It's going to be denied if it's still open. So it doesn't matter what she does for a living. If it's still in any way an open investigation, they're going to keep what they would be, consider evidentiary value later, right? They can release an autopsy. I mean, most states, that's under public information. You can get that just like you can get a death certificate. Maybe they thought, well, this will appease them. This will answer enough and everybody will be satisfied.
But it actually created more questions.
Of course it did. Of course it did. Because again, you're talking about majority civilians. You're talking about people that don't understand what you're saying and what you're not saying. And when you give somebody something as a final report, this is the best I can do for you, and it's undetermined.
Yeah.
Come on. You don't even know what happened.
Exactly.
How am I supposed to know what happened? Police can't even agree. So again, you left this family with what? Nothing but questions, huh? I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, well. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time.
Mac.
Of course.
And definitely we're probably going to be looping you in on some other questions we have as the more information we get. And then, but once again, appreciate your brain and your tenacity.
And your experience in your...
I'm happy to talk to y'all anytime. And again, if you want me and Maureen to come walk around and see,
Oh, yeah.
That's coming.
That's happening.
let me know.
That's coming.
I'd be
You
honored.
guys.
That's happening. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.